Imagine this. I faked my own death to get revenge on my cheating wife, and her lover went to prison for my incident. You won't believe how far I want to make them pay. You won't believe how it ends. Let's start from the beginning. It was a Saturday evening, and the sun had just slipped below the horizon. That in-between time made it tough to tell if headlights were needed yet. But Jack Turner didn't have to think about it. He was already pulling into the garage of his house on a quiet street in Sharpsburg. Just moments later, a lean man with dark hair stepped out from the side door. He was carrying a duffel bag, a briefcase, and a laptop. Years of practice made it second nature for him to manage all that without fumbling. He walked into the house silently. He knew Lisa wasn't home. Once inside, he dropped the briefcase and laptop onto the living room couch and set the garment bag down near the stairs. He hung up his coat in the front closet, then took off his jacket and loosened his tie. A couple shirt buttons came undone next. He'd just gotten back from a manager's meeting held by ABC Industries. Technically, he wasn't a manager. He was the lead systems analyst. But his boss, who was great at organizing people but couldn't work his way around a keyboard to save his life, needed him at the meeting in Pittsburgh. Jack had told Lisa he'd be gone until Monday. Said the meeting would be followed by some weekend seminars. That wasn't exactly true. He had his reasons, and honestly, he didn't want to come home too soon. He even regretted not packing some comfier clothes for the trip. He knew Lisa would have raised questions if he had. Now that he was home, he hit the shower and changed into jeans and a polo. After a quick bite of leftovers and a cold beer, he settled into the living room with the local paper, playing the part of a guy just unwinding after a long trip. But in reality, he was trying to get through something heavy, something personal. He'd already made it through denial, but the anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance were still gnawing at him. Sometime after midnight, he cleaned up the kitchen. He knew deep down it was just stalling, something to do while his brain kept spinning without an answer. He threw on a light jacket and headed toward the side door. But then he remembered something and went back into the living room, shot off an email from his laptop, and finally stepped outside. He spent 5 minutes in the garage. Then the engine started, and the garage door closed behind him as he drove off. The next morning, at 7:37 a.m., Sharpsburg's Emergency Dispatch Center took a call. Emergency services. What's your emergency? The operator asked. A young woman's voice came through, a little shaky. I need the police. I think something bad happened. The dispatcher followed up calmly. Where are you right now, ma'am? I'm at a payphone, she replied, on Park Drive near George Washington Park. The connection wasn't great, so the dispatcher leaned in and asked again, can you tell me what happened? Were you hurt? Did someone rob you? There was a pause before she answered. No, I'm okay. It wasn't me. I was out running through the park, on the access road near the picnic area. I saw a car. The doors were wide open. Lights were on. And there was a lot of substance. That got the dispatcher's full attention. Do we need to send an ambulance? Is someone injured? No, she said quickly. Nobody was there. Just the car and the substance. A short beat passed. Then she added, I didn't stick around. I got spooked. I was afraid whoever did it might come back. So I ran straight here to call. You did the right thing, the operator assured her. An officer is already on the way. They should arrive in under 10 minutes. Please wait there so they can find the spot. But the caller panicked. No, I'm not staying. What if they're still out there? I'm going home. Then she hung up. The dispatcher stared at the screen as the call ended. Damn it, they muttered. I hope I didn't pull cops off something even worse. That afternoon, around 2 o'clock, Detective Tom Randall arrived at the Evans place. As he stepped out of his cruiser, a blonde woman was pulling into the driveway. He walked up to her right away. Excuse me, he said. I'm looking for Mrs. Evans. She turned around while dragging a suitcase from the trunk. I'm Rachel Turner. Do we know each other? No, ma'am. I'm Detective Tom Randall with the Sharpsburg Police Department. We're trying to locate your husband, Jack Turner. His car was found abandoned this morning in George Washington Park. He held up his badge and ID. Lisa looked puzzled at first, then frowned slightly. Jack's in Pittsburgh. He always leaves his car at the airport. You must have made a mistake. Nesbitt shook his head. No mistake. The license plate and VIN both match. It's definitely his car. Lisa, looking more confused than ever, walked toward the side door. Well, then someone must have taken it from the airport. That's the only explanation I can think of. Nesbitt kept pressing gently. When was the last time you spoke to your husband? Could you try calling him now, just to confirm he's in Pittsburgh? Does he have a cell phone? She stopped, put down her bag, and started fishing through her purse for her phone. He called me yesterday morning from Pittsburgh. I'll try him now. She dialed. But instead of ringing, a phone buzzed in Nesbitt's pocket. He pulled it out and answered, "Hello, Mrs. Evans?" Lisa's eyes widened. "Wait, why do you have Jack's phone?" Nesbitt stayed calm. "I can't give it back to you. It's part of an ongoing investigation. We found it inside his vehicle." Her concern grew. "Investigation? What are you saying?" "We found the car with its doors open, in a damaged spot. Right now, we need to figure out if your husband is hurt, or if he's involved in something more serious." Lisa picked up her briefcase. "He always stays at the same Holiday Inn. I've got the number in my address book. Let's go inside. I'll find it." They went into the kitchen. Lisa quickly found the number and called. A few minutes later, she turned from the phone looking shaken. "Jack's briefcase and laptop are sitting in our living room." "I don't understand." Nesbitt rubbed his chin, thinking. Then he stepped aside and called a colleague. "Dave, it's Tom. I need a warrant to search the Evans house. We've got to determine if Jack Turner is a victim or something else. Get here fast." "I'll wait." He hung up and sat down across from Lisa at the table. She didn't hold back. "A search warrant? You don't need that. Just look wherever you want. Please, just help me find him." "I hear you," Nesbitt said. "But I have to follow procedure. If we find something illegal and we don't do this right, it won't hold up in court." Lisa's face tightened. "Illegal? Jack's not involved in anything like that. He works in IT." Nesbitt leaned in gently. "Then why did he come home without telling you?" That hit her hard. She went pale. "Oh no. He can't be panicked. I swear, I don't know why he came back early. But I'm telling you, he's not doing anything illegal. Something must have happened." Her voice trembled now. "You have to find him. He could be hurt somewhere." Nesbitt softened his tone. "We're not jumping to any conclusions, ma'am. All of our guys are out there looking for him right now. Why don't you brew some coffee while we wait for the warrant? We'll get through this." Lisa nodded, clearly shaken but a little more composed. She turned to the coffee machine and began preparing a pot. She looked like she was calming down, but when I asked her for a full rundown of the past 48 hours, she tensed up again. "We need statements from everyone connected to the case," I said gently, sipping my coffee. I waited a few beats, just giving her space, then circled back to the point. While we sat at the kitchen table, I walked her through what we'd found, how Jack's car was found with visible damage and an unidentified substance inside. I told her it looked like there might have been a second shot too, one that hit a body lying on some firewood near the vehicle. That item was currently under examination. The car itself had already been towed for inspection, and the forensic team along with the medical examiner were still working the scene. A few minutes later, my partner, Detective Eric Monroe, arrived with the search warrant. 2 forensic techs followed right behind him. They got to work checking the garage and Lisa's car. I spoke with Lisa again, asking if we could collect Jack's razor and toothbrush to use for DNA. She was clearly overwhelmed, so I asked her to just sit on the couch and rest while we handled the rest. An hour or so passed. We ended up collecting his laptop, briefcase, and the DNA samples. The laptop, though, was locked with a password. "Mrs. Evans, do you happen to know your husband's laptop password?" I asked, hoping she might help speed things up. She brightened just a little. "It used to be a combo of his name and birth year. Try Jack 1971, or maybe his full name, Try Jack 1971. We tried every version she could think of, but no luck." "Don't worry," I told her. "Our tech team will get into it eventually." Once the items were secured in the forensics van, I returned to the table to take her full statement. "All right, Mrs. Evans. I need some basic info about your movements this weekend. Let's start with Saturday morning." She took a long breath. "Saturday morning, I stayed home and did some housework. Jack called from Pittsburgh sometime around 1 or maybe 1:30 to apologize for not being home. After that, I went shopping. I was out until about 4:30. Then I came home, ate dinner, and around 7:30, I left to spend the night at a friend's place. This morning, I slept in and didn't get home until around 2. As she spoke, I noticed her body tightening up. She stared at the floor, clenching her fists. I closed my notebook gently. "That's enough for now, Mrs. Evans. We may need more later. Just be ready." I stood up to go check on the team out back. Before I left the kitchen, I asked, "Do you have any recent full-body photos of your husband? Or at least a good headshot?" "We've only got his license photo." I scanned the fireplace mantel. Some wedding shots were displayed there. Lisa nodded and hurried off. "I've got a whole album." Let me grab it. She returned with a photo book and flipped through it beside me. Here are some more recent ones, Detective. Take whatever you need. I picked a clear group photo and a clean headshot. These are perfect. Thank you. I pointed to a man standing next to Jack in one of the photos. This guy, he a relative? In case we need more DNA, a family member might help. No, that's Sean Miller. He's Jack's oldest friend. Known him since grade school, she explained. Jack doesn't have any close family around here. I nodded and thanked her, then rejoined Dave and the techs in the garage. Lisa stayed behind, still sitting at the kitchen table. She looked completely drained, almost ready to break. I couldn't help but feel for her. Her husband was missing. There was substance, a bullet hole, and she hadn't even known he was back in town. That didn't add up. Out in the garage, the team finished up. But then something new came in. We found substance smears on the gas and brake pedals in Lisa's car. That was enough to tow it in for further testing. As the forensic guys wrapped up their gear, Dave and I took a moment to talk. Facing the side door, I asked him, "So what's your read on Mrs. Evans?" Dave didn't hesitate. "I'm not sure yet. She seems like a stressed-out wife, but that substance in her car is a red flag. Could be nothing, but it could be big." I nodded. "Let's see how she reacts when we break the news." We walked back inside and found Lisa mid-call on her cell. She quickly ended it when she saw us. "You're back. I thought you were finished," she said, her voice a little shaky. "We found substance on the pedals of your car," I told her. "We're going to tow it for analysis. Hope that's okay." Her face fell. "Blood? In my car? I didn't notice anything like that." "We'll need to know how it got there," I explained. "And if it's connected to the incident in the park, we'll have to dig deeper. Also, I need the shoes you wore today." Lisa shook her head, clearly rattled. "I haven't been to that park in weeks. I have no idea how substance ended up in my car." She handed me her shoes, then dropped into a chair, buried her face in her hands, and started sobbing. Dave and I exchanged glances. We knew there was more to uncover. We left her sitting there, slumped and crying at the kitchen table. On the way out, I asked, "What do you think, Dave? Is she a grieving wife? Or just putting on a good act?" "She seemed genuine," Dave said. "But she hung up that phone real fast when we came in. Could have been her best friend. Could be something else." "Yeah," I muttered. "We need to figure out why Jack came home early. That might be the missing piece." I bagged the shoes as evidence. Dave and I had taken separate cars, so we each drove back to the station on our own. My head was spinning the whole ride back. The rest of our shift was spent typing up reports and going over notes. The next morning, we were both in early, ready to keep digging. Forensics and the me had sent over their initial reports. It took us about an hour to read through everything. "They're all pointing the same way," I said to Dave. "But let's not jump the gun. We still haven't cracked the computer." "Agreed," he nodded. "And we should talk to his lawyer. Maybe coworkers too." Our first stop was Jack's attorney, Nathan Ellis. He gave us a few minutes. "I can't speak about Jack's legal matters," he said. "We understand," I replied. "We're just looking to verify that these emails came from Jack's computer. We need to confirm they weren't just saved as drafts." I handed over 4 printed emails. "These are originals," Graham said. "I can confirm I received them." We thanked him and left. As we walked out to the car, Dave gave me a grin. "Like you said, it's usually the spouse. But we've got more to check at ABC Industries." We drove to Jack's workplace and were shown into his supervisor's office. Dave took the lead. "We're investigating the discovery of Jack Turner's car in George Washington Park. You might have heard about it." The supervisor nodded, looking worried. "Yes, I'll help however I can. Jack's a key part of the team. What do you need?" "First, can you confirm he was scheduled to be in Pittsburgh until Friday night?" Dave asked. "We were told he had seminars through the weekend." The questions were only beginning. Jack's boss didn't hesitate. "He wasn't scheduled for anything over the weekend," he said. "I actually expected him back Friday evening." Dave jotted that down and asked the next logical question. "Have you noticed anything unusual about him lately? Seemed distracted, maybe?" The man paused, thinking it over. "Honestly, yeah. He looked like he had a lot weighing on him. I asked once if something was bothering him, but he just brushed it off and said everything was fine. Kept to himself more than usual. I figured it was just work pressure." We thanked him and left, both of us feeling like we were getting closer to something solid. By late morning, we were back at the station. Forensics had sent over preliminary DNA results and a new report that included something odd. A small box with wires, possibly a tracking device. Another puzzle piece. We spread everything out on the table in the interrogation room, going through notes and fresh leads. Things were finally starting to connect. By 3 p.m., we were pulling up to the Evans house again. We didn't call ahead. We wanted to see Lisa's raw reaction. And sure enough, she looked caught off guard when she opened the door. "Detectives, any news?" "Did you find Jack?" she asked, clearly anxious. "I've been calling the sergeant every couple of hours, and he keeps telling me there's nothing new." I gave her a calm but firm answer. "Not yet, but we've made some progress. We need to ask you a few more questions." She looked nervous but stepped aside to let us in. "Sure, come in. I'll try to help however I can." We sat down in the living room. Dave opened his notebook and leaned in. "Mrs. Evans, is there anything you want to tell us about your relationship with Sean Miller?" That hit her hard. She froze. "What?" she said, her voice shaky. "Blake? He's Jack's best friend. That's it. We're just friends." I kept my tone even. "Are you having an affair with him?" She went pale as a ghost. "Absolutely not. I can't believe you'd ask me that." I stood up, and Dave followed with the next step. "Ma'am, we're going to need you to come to the station and give a formal statement." Her eyes widened. "What? Am I being arrested?" "Not yet," Dave told her. "But we do need an official statement, and you have the right to bring a lawyer if you'd like." Lisa straightened up. "I don't need a lawyer. I'll come with you. I'll do anything to help find Jack." We escorted her to the car and drove her back to the station. Once there, we brought her into one of the darker interrogation rooms, intentionally designed to be uncomfortable, to make people squirm a little. I asked again, "Are you sure you don't want a lawyer?" She shook her head, tears forming in her blue eyes. "No, I'm fine. I just want to help." I stepped out and double-checked the cameras were recording. Dave told our commanding officer, "Make sure we've got a clean recording of this. I think we're about to get real answers." I returned with the case file in hand. But instead of starting right away, we took a break. The three of us detectives went down to the coffee shop for about 20 minutes. We used the time to talk strategy and go over what we'd say. Meanwhile, across town, a volunteer at Crime Stoppers picked up a call. "Good morning, Crime Stoppers. We offer rewards of up to $1,000 for tips that solve crimes. This call's being recorded." There was a pause before a gruff, older voice came through. "Can I get money if I help the cops?" "That depends on your tip and if it helps us solve a case," the volunteer replied. "Do you know anything?" Another pause. "Do I get the money right away?" the caller asked. "What if the cops try to screw me?" "The money isn't from the police. It's from Crime Stoppers," the volunteer reassured him. "If you give us something solid, I'll give you a tip code. You call back in a few days to check on your reward." The man sounded impatient. "I need the money now. I need juice." The volunteer paused. "Food? I can tell you where to find a shelter." "Not food. Juice. The kind that costs $5 a bottle." Trying not to laugh, the volunteer said, "Well, if your tip checks out, you can buy a whole case of it." There was a long silence. Then the caller dropped a bomb. "I saw a guy dump a weapon under the 3rd Street Bridge Sunday morning. Had a rifle and 2 shovels." "Was this the East Side?" the volunteer asked. "Did he toss it into the water?" "Yep. Right off the dock," the man said. "I can describe him. Big guy. Blonde. Driving a dark blue car. Plate started with SS, but I can't remember the rest." The volunteer noted every word. "Great. You're now tip number 127. Call us back in a few days." The tip was passed to the police, and within an hour, we had a diver in the river. Sure enough, both the rifle and shovels were recovered. Back at the crime lab, ballistics confirmed the weapon matched the scene at George Washington Park. The 2 shovels were also logged into evidence. Just as Dave and I were heading back from the coffee break, a clerk met us outside. "Detectives," he said, handing over 2 thick folders, "we've got the weapon used in the park shooting. And the Crime Stoppers tip might point to your guy." We flipped through the reports. Everything was finally connecting. "Tom," Dave said, "let's split up. I'll go talk to our guest in the interview room. You get a uniformed officer to pick up Sean Miller for questioning." "On it," I said. We were closing in. Dave headed for the interview room where Lisa was still waiting. Meanwhile, I put in the call to have Sean Miller brought in. Inside the room, Lisa sat calmly, too calmly. No tears. No panic. Just quiet. "Sorry to keep you waiting, Mrs. Evans," Dave said. "Just so you know, everything in this room is being recorded and monitored." She nodded. "I understand. I have nothing to hide." "Good," he said, flipping open a folder. "Let's start. Are you having an affair with Sean Miller, yes or no? Lisa dropped her gaze. Her shoulders sagged. Yes, she whispered. Dave laid some papers on the table, documents pulled from Jack's laptop. Your husband knew, he told her. He found out and sent these emails to his attorney. He was planning to divorce you. Infidelity. He slid over a map. This shows visits to Blake's house. Jack tracked you. Lisa looked stunned. How? Dave held up a small black device. He installed a tracker in your car. Tracked every stop, every visit. Real time. Lisa's hands went to her mouth. So he knew for weeks, she muttered. He knew, and he was going to leave me. Tears started falling. Dave didn't stop. He documented everything. Saturday night, the night he disappeared, he sent one final email to his lawyer. Said he was going to confront you, and that he was afraid things might get out of control. Lisa looked up, her face tight with emotion. But Jack never showed up at Blake's that night. I stayed over, and he never came by. Dave leaned in, his voice low. Preliminary DNA says otherwise. The substance at the park? It's Jack's. And we found the weapon used. It's connected to your boyfriend. Now the question is, how long are you going to keep covering for him? Lisa's eyes filled with panic. Blake didn't do anything to Jack. I swear. We were together the whole night. Dave didn't back down. Then explain why your husband's substance was in your car. And on your shoes. She went completely still. My partner's picking up Mr. Moore right now, he added. Whoever tells us what happened and helps us find the body gets the better deal. Lisa didn't speak. She was shaking, her knuckles white as she gripped a crumpled tissue. Dave handed her the printed substance test reports, but she barely glanced at them. She choked out, Jack can't be dead. I love him. I need him. She broke down, crying hard now, holding that soaked handkerchief to her face. Dave waited, letting her sit in it. When she started calming down, he leveled with her again. There's no doubt anymore, Lisa. Your husband is gone. The medical examiner's report puts the chance of survival at less than 5%, too much substance loss, and no sign he was treated at any hospital anywhere in the county. He placed the coroner's report and a few grim photos in front of her. One glance at the substance-stained scene was enough. She lost it all over again. Dave stood. I'll leave you alone for a few minutes. But this won't go away just because you deny it. He stepped out, dropped the files on his desk, and passed the captain with a slow shake of his head. Then he headed to the break room for more coffee, while their superior kept an eye on the live camera feed from the interrogation room. Meanwhile, I drove over to Sean Miller's place. A patrol unit met me out front. To my surprise, Blake actually answered the door himself, like he wasn't expecting trouble. Yes, officers? What's going on? He asked casually. I showed my badge. Detective Nesbitt. We're looking into Jack Turner's disappearance. We need you to come down to the station. His wife's already there. We have some questions that you might be able to help answer. Blake tensed up. Am I under arrest or something? I mean, I know he's missing, but I'm not sure what you think I can do. You're not under arrest, I told him. We just need your side of the story. Let's go. He didn't resist. Just quietly followed us into the unmarked car and sat in the back. Department protocol. I glanced back. So, how well do you know Mrs. Evans? Blake shrugged. She's Jack's wife. Why? Just wondering. What do you do for work, Mr. Moore? I run a landscaping company. Moore's Landscaping. We handle big commercial contracts, some city jobs too. His voice eased up a little once he started talking shop. Back at the station, we placed him in the interrogation room next to Lisa's. I grabbed Dave's folder and stepped in. At first, Blake denied everything, swore up and down that there was no affair. But we had the receipts, emails, GPS data, photos. It didn't take long. Eventually, he came clean. Okay. Yeah, we've been seeing each other. It's been a few months, almost 4. But neither of us did anything to Jack. I swear. We were together the whole night. I leaned in, pushing a little harder. If Jack found out, maybe he snapped. Tried to set you up to make it look like you were guilty. Blake perked up at that idea. Exactly. He was smart enough to do something like that. I wasn't buying it. We've got the weapon. A witness saw you with it. Gave us most of your plate number 2. Don't try to claim Jack pulled off some elaborate suicide and frame job. Blake's mood shifted. He got defensive. You don't understand, man. Jack and I go way back, elementary school. But he was always intense, especially about girls. In high school, I dated one of his exes without telling him. When he found out, he freaked. Said if I ever touched one of his girls again, he'd liquidate me. I raised an eyebrow. So you were scared of him but still hooked up with his wife? Blake sighed. I tried to stay away, but over time, it just built up. One night, I made a move. She didn't stop me. It just happened. I couldn't help it. We were careful, he added. Really careful. I still don't get how he found out. I flipped through the reports again. Affairs like this? They often end in incident. You two had motive. It lines up. He shook his head. No, we didn't hurt him. If he knew, maybe he planned all this. Maybe he wanted to get back at us. I looked him in the eye. We've got enough to search your home, your car, your office. Now's your chance to be smart, Blake. Confess, and maybe you'll get some leniency. He suddenly snapped. I didn't kill Jack. Maybe Lisa did something. I don't know. I stood up, grabbed the files. Funny thing about co-conspirators, they always turn on each other. You're not going anywhere for a while. Out in the hall, Dave handed me a fresh report. Shovels we pulled from the river? They're from Moore's Landscaping. I just laughed. These guys think we can't connect dots? Later that day, we brought all our evidence to the DA. Even without a body, the case was solid. Blood, weapons, witness, motive, GPS, the whole nine. Within 30 minutes, Rachel Turner and Sean Miller were officially charged with Jack Turner homicide. They were read their Miranda rights as they both shouted protests of innocence. After arraignment, they were fingerprinted and photographed. No one had to tell them not to smile. Back in holding, they were placed in adjacent cells, separated by a wall but close enough to talk. Lisa finally broke the silence. What do we do now, Blake? She whispered, sniffling. They can't really believe we killed him, right? He sighed. We need separate lawyers. Or maybe just one to save money. I don't know. This whole thing is wrong. I think Jack planned this. Lisa stared through the bars. You can't be serious. Why would he do all this? I don't think you ever really knew him, Blake muttered. I'm honestly surprised he didn't go ballistic the second he found out about us. Lisa looked stunned. If I thought he'd find out, I wouldn't have touched you. They talked for a while, Blake telling her again about how Jack had once threatened him back in high school for messing with a girl he liked. Lisa wiped her face. I just don't get how he knew. We were so careful. We only met when he was out of town. Her voice cracked. I regret it. I betrayed him, even if he's alive somewhere. I want a divorce. Lisa, stop, Blake said firmly. You knew what this was when you came to my place. You knew the risk. She nodded slowly. You're right. I hope he forgives me somehow. A few minutes passed. Maybe we should call Nathan Ellis, she whispered. Maybe he can be our lawyer. She got a guard's attention and asked to make a call. But Graham refused. He was already involved in Jack's legal affairs and didn't want the conflict. He gave them the name of another attorney instead, Calvin Brooks. Lisa agreed to let Calvin Brooks represent them both, and Blake looked relieved. He thanked her from behind the bars. They waited quietly in their separate cells until Smith showed up, a sharp, experienced lawyer who wasted no time with small talk. So he began, scanning the paperwork. You're both being charged with the homicide of Jack Turner. What exactly did the police tell you? He turned to Lisa first. Let's hear the basics. Just walk me through it. Lisa recounted her version, eyes glassy, voice trembling. She finished in tears. I didn't do anything to Jack. I loved him. I could never hurt him. Smith turned to Blake. All right, your turn. Keep it short. Blake gave a calm but firm summary, saying, we didn't do this. I truly think Jack set this up somehow. Maybe to punish us. Smith didn't comment on that theory. Right now, our priority is getting both of you out on bail. It'll likely be set at $100,000 each. That a problem? Lisa looked panicked. Do I actually need $100,000? No, Smith clarified. You only need to post 10%, $10,000 for the bond. They both said they'd figure it out. They just want it out. Smith explained the timeline. You'll be arraigned tomorrow morning. That's when bail gets officially set. Then we'll handle your release paperwork. But you'll be spending tonight here. That news didn't sit well with either of them. Smith told them there wasn't much else he could do until the formal charges were filed. Once they were out, he planned to meet with the DA to unseal evidence and get a clearer picture of the case. The guards led Lisa and Blake back to their cells. That night was long and uncomfortable, bad food, cold blankets, and obnoxious inmates yelling through the walls. At 10 o'clock the next morning, Smith met them before court. They looked rough, but held it together. In front of the judge, they both entered not guilty pleas. Just as Smith predicted, bail was set at $100,000 each. Blake, who owned his house and business, was able to post bond quickly. By the afternoon, he was walking free. Lisa wasn't so lucky. Her house wasn't in her name, and her savings had been drained by Jack, no less. He'd withdrawn most of their shared funds before filing for divorce, likely trying to secure his share. With nowhere else to turn, Lisa called her parents. After a lot of pleading, they agreed to help with the $10,000. But the delay meant she spent another night behind bars, this time in a cell with two tipsy women picked up for solicitation. When the money finally came through the next day, Lisa was released. She went straight home, showered, and ignored every call that came in. Time moved fast over the next month. She eventually received the official divorce papers, though she still didn't know what Jack had done with the rest of the money he took. She and Blake met with Calvin Brooks several times. He now had copies of the police reports and was trying to get the charges dismissed. Smith pointed out that a conviction without a body or witnesses would be tough. He even floated the idea of hiring a private investigator to see if Jack had staged his own disappearance. Blake thought it was a smart move. Lisa didn't. She believed Jack had been the victim of a carjacking gone wrong. The investigators started digging, but week after week, nothing turned up. He even tried to track down the anonymous tipster who called in the location of the weapon and shovels, but nobody recognized the voice. The tipster never followed up. That just deepened the mystery. Meanwhile, things between Lisa and Blake started falling apart. After Blake got out, he hinted that maybe they could keep seeing each other. Lisa shut that down hard. "This is your fault," she told him, crying. "I want nothing to do with you. Nothing, except whatever the court requires." Blake's response was cold. "Suit yourself, Lisa. You're not the only woman in this town." From then on, they only spoke through their lawyer. Their affair, once secret and passionate, had gone ice cold. About a month after their release, Calvin Brooks managed to schedule a meeting with District Attorney Leo Spencer. Both Lisa and Blake were hopeful. The constant interrogation about their relationship had worn them down. They were screening every call and desperate to clear their names. Bogdan, who looked younger than expected and dressed like he belonged in a tech startup, didn't waste time. "I just got the final reports from me and the police," he said. "Based on everything, I'm offering you both a deal, 8 to 12 years for a guilty plea to second-degree homicide." Lisa and Blake were stunned. They both jumped in, yelling that they were innocent. Smith raised a hand, trying to keep control. "What evidence justifies that kind of offer?" Bogdan opened a folder. "We've got more DNA. Jack Turner substance was found on the license plate and trunk seal of Lisa's car. And we found black polyethylene under his car that matches materials used by Moore's Landscaping." Lisa snapped at Blake. "What did you do?" Blake fired back. "Don't start. You were with me that night. You know I didn't do anything." Smith stepped between them. "Enough. Both of you." He turned back to Bogdan. "Sorry. The offer just caught them off guard. We were hoping you'd drop the charges." Bogdan wasn't bothered. "Understandable. But we've got enough for trial. The medical examiner says Jack lost too much substance to survive. The scene shows he was moved, likely dragged, wrapped in plastic, and hauled away in a vehicle. We believe the body was transported and buried. The weapon and shovels were recovered from the river after a tip. And I have every reason to think the jury will side with us." He handed over the evidence reports and walked out. Lisa and Blake started whispering to Smith, trying to figure out what to do. He quickly shut them up. "Stop. I know you're scared, but don't turn on each other. We need a plan." He looked them both in the eye. "Do you want to reject the plea deal?" Without hesitation, both of them said no, they wouldn't admit guilt. Smith nodded slowly. "All right, then we get ready for trial." But after they left, he stayed behind with the reports. And as he flipped through the photos and read the forensic breakdown, a question crept in. Were they telling the truth? He couldn't be sure anymore. But he was committed to doing his job. Months passed. Then finally, the trial began. On a Monday morning at 10 a.m., Judge Henry Dalton took his seat. Smith sat between Lisa and Blake, partly to ease tension, partly to keep them from snapping at each other. He'd thought about suggesting they get separate lawyers, but financially, it wasn't realistic. Blake's business was tanking, and Lisa had quit her job, overwhelmed by the pressure and rumors swirling around her husband's disappearance. The prosecution kicked things off. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," DA Leo Spencer began, "we don't have a body, but we'll prove Jack Turner is dead, and that these two defendants are responsible." He laid it all out. The affair, the divorce papers, the emails, the GPS data, the emotional buildup. Bogdan explained that while they couldn't pinpoint exactly when Jack learned the truth, they knew he was tracking them. His emails and computer files showed he had figured out when and where they were meeting. He was preparing to confront them. Then came the chilling timeline. "We believe," Bogdan said, "Jack went to Sean Miller's residence. There, he was incapacitated, maybe drugged, maybe ambushed, and placed in a car. He was taken to George Washington Park. Something happened there. He didn't make it. Signs showed he was hurt badly, twice. He warned the jury that they'd see graphic photos. Lisa couldn't take it. She broke down, sobbing loudly. Judge Cox called a brief recess to calm things down. When the trial resumed, Bogdan continued. After the second shot, Mr. Evans was wrapped in plastic. We believe he was dragged from the scene, loaded into the trunk of Mr. Moore's vehicle, and buried at an unknown location. The incident weapon and 2 shovels were tossed into the river. Luckily, someone saw this and called it in. That tip led us to the recovery of those items." The prosecution didn't let up. Forensics confirmed it. Both defendants had been at the crime scene. Jack Turner's substance was found on Sean Miller's car and on Lisa's shoes. The DA, Leo Spencer, didn't sugarcoat it. "The defense will claim they weren't there," he told the jury. "They'll rely on each other as alibis. But I'm confident you'll see through that." When it was Calvin Brooks's turn to speak, he reminded the jury about the presumption of innocence. He urged them to look at facts, not assumptions, and warned against jumping to conclusions without a body. Still, Bogdan's words hit hard. You could feel it. The first witness was a computer expert who broke down the emails and maps Jack had used to track his wife's meetings with Blake. The tracking device, mentioned in a letter Jack had sent his lawyer, logged every stop and timestamp with precision. There was no denying it. Lisa shrank in her chair, humiliated. Blake sat like he didn't care, barely blinking. Smith cross-examined. But there was little he could do. The GPS logs and emails were airtight. The truth was already out. Journalists scribbled in their notebooks, especially at the mention of the tracking device. That was front-page material. After a long lunch break, things picked back up with testimony from the 911 operator and the first 2 officers on the scene. Their accounts were calm, clinical, just the facts. But things heated up when the detectives and the medical examiner took the stand. That's when the graphic photos came out. Bullet holes, thick substance trails, drag marks through dirt. The medical examiner described the substance loss, estimated between 3 and 4 pints, and the way omething shot out in bursts, revealing just how serious the damage was. Right then, Lisa cracked. She screamed from the defense table, "No, Jack can't be dead." The courtroom froze. Judge Cox had no choice but to call it for the day. The next morning, the trial resumed. The medical examiner continued with substance sample results. After 15 minutes, DA Spencer wrapped his questions and turned it over to the defense. Smith took a quick glance at Lisa, who was now sedated and sitting quietly. Then he got up to challenge the story. "You estimated Jack Turner lost 3 to 4 pints of substance," Smith began. "But is it possible that it was closer to 1 or 2 pints, depending on soil absorption?" The examiner didn't dismiss it. "It's unlikely," he said, "but not impossible." Smith kept going. "If someone had administered first aid, could it have saved him?" "Only if it was immediate and professional," the examiner said. "But again, not impossible." Smith made his point. Even a little doubt could matter later. Then came a weapons specialist. He talked about the 2 bullets found, one from the car seat, deformed from impact, the other, found in the firewood, in near-perfect shape. Both matched the recovered rifle. Smith asked about the bullets. Were they tested for substance, tissue, bone? The expert confirmed minor substance traces. He explained the bullets were full metal jacket rounds, military grade, with a harder copper steel coating. That made them less likely to deform, and also meant any substance could have been wiped clean or stripped as the bullets passed through upholstery or wood. It was a mixed bag for the defense. While there was no direct proof the bullets went through Jack's body, the type and condition explained why. The gun itself was a dead end. It had been sold at a gun show 20 years earlier. No paperwork. No buyer trail. Smith did confirm that neither the gun nor shell casings had fingerprints or DNA from Lisa or Blake. Most of it had likely been erased by the river. What hadn't been washed away had clearly been wiped clean. Another tech testified about the shovels. No prints. No DNA. But they were marked Moore's Landscaping. 14 identical shovels were found at your business, the prosecutor noted. Smith didn't get much out of cross-examination. Witnesses rolled in all day: lab techs, cops, specialists. Most testified to things already in evidence. But Smith did get one small win. During questioning, a technician who found substance in Blake's car admitted the possibility that the substance could have been planted by someone else. It was thin, but it was something. Another tech testified about Lisa's car and shoes. Traces were found on her right shoe and the car's pedals. But they couldn't confirm whether the shoe transferred it to the pedal or the other way around. Smith clung to that uncertainty, hoping it might cast a little doubt for the jury. The third day of the trial began with the defense finally getting its turn. Most local news outlets didn't think Smith had much to work with. The prosecution had DNA, substance, motive, timeline. No body, sure, but everything else was damning. Still, Smith had a strategy: create doubt. Raise the possibility that Jack Turner might still be alive. He called Dr. Nina Graves, a substance spatter specialist. Wilbur said the scene hadn't been properly processed. If they'd collected the soil samples correctly, the substance loss estimate might have been lower. He claimed that a scene like that could be created with as little as 1.5 pints, and someone could survive that. The prosecution didn't even bother to cross-examine. Then Sean Miller took the stand. He claimed innocence, stuck to his story that Jack had planned this whole thing himself. He said he didn't own a gun, and as for the shovels, anyone could have taken them from one of his job sites. Smith didn't dwell. He passed the cross to the prosecution. Bogdan didn't ease in. Why would Jack Turner fake his own incident? Blake went into his old story, how Jack had once threatened him in high school for dating a girl Jack liked. So this isn't the first time you've interfered with Jack's relationships, Bogdan said. Blake looked caught. If he wanted to hurt someone, the DA added, why wouldn't he come after you? You think he'd go through all this to set up both you and Lisa? Blake mumbled something about being bigger and stronger, implying Jack wouldn't confront him directly. So you think you scared your friend into faking his own death? Bogdan scoffed. Is that what gave you the confidence to sleep with his wife? Smith shot up. Objection, he's testifying, not asking. The judge agreed. Jury, disregard that last comment. Still, the damage was done. Blake looked flustered, shaken. He left the stand quietly, no more bravado left in him. Smith sighed. That did not go well. He put Lisa on the stand next, hoping she'd do better. She sat tall and spoke firmly. I didn't hurt my husband. I think he was carjacked. Smith left it at that. No further questions. The DA stepped up. Where were you between midnight Saturday and 2 p.m. Sunday? Lisa hesitated. With Blake. At his house. Since Saturday night. That's not what I asked. Midnight to 2 p.m. Sunday, what exactly were you doing? Lisa turned red. At midnight. We were together, privately. And how long did that go on? She glanced away. Probably past 1. What happened next? We slept until around 5:45. We reconnected later that morning. The courtroom was dead silent. So at 6:30, you initiated another round? The prosecutor asked. Lisa blinked. Yes. Then we went back to sleep. Got up around 11. The DA said nothing more. He didn't need to. The prosecutor wasn't done yet. He leaned in. So, Lisa, he asked, were you the one who initiated things that morning? Lisa turned bright red, visibly uncomfortable. No, she said softly. He was already ready. That got a few looks from the jury. Then tell us exactly how you woke him. The prosecutor pressed. Lisa swallowed hard. I got closer, and it all just unfolded on its own, she admitted quietly. The prosecutor moved in for the kill. You've said over and over that you loved your husband, that you had nothing to do with what happened to him. But while he was, by all evidence, bleeding to death, possibly taking his last breath, you were in bed with his best friend. How are we supposed to believe you weren't part of what ended his life? Lisa couldn't answer. She broke into quiet sobs. Judge Cox saw enough. Are there any further questions? There weren't. The judge called for a lunch recess. Lisa managed to pull herself together and met with her attorney, Calvin Brooks, for a quiet, tense lunch. Basil didn't sugarcoat things. He told them it could go either way now. But deep down, he was worried. Both of his clients had crumbled on the stand, and he knew the jury had seen it. The afternoon session was brief. Smith stood and told the court the defense had no more witnesses. That was it. The arguments were over. Both sides spent the rest of the day crafting their final statements. The prosecution focused on the sheer weight of evidence. DNA, blood, the affair, the lies, the planning. Smith did what he could. He leaned into the fact that it was all circumstantial. No body, no eyewitness, no definitive proof of an incident. He reminded the jury that speculation isn't justice. At 4 p.m., the case went to the jury. They deliberated for 2 hours before breaking for the night. The next morning, Lisa and Blake waited at Basil's office, sitting in a shared conference room. There wasn't much left to say between them. They just hoped the verdict would go their way. By 3:30 p.m., the call came. The jury had reached a decision. Lisa's parents were in the courtroom. They'd flown in days ago and had barely left her side. The courtroom was silent as the foreman read the verdict. Guilty. Second-degree homicide. Lisa broke down crying. Blake slammed his fist on the table. Both were quickly handcuffed and led away. Lisa was given a brief moment with her parents. "I didn't do it," she said through sobs. "I swear I didn't." The week between the conviction and sentencing crawled by. Lisa's parents visited her every day. Blake got one visit from a cousin. At sentencing, both Rachel Turner and Sean Miller were handed 15 years to life. Calvin Brooks promised them he'd review the transcripts and consider an appeal. 3 days later, they were transferred to state prisons. Lisa was sent to a facility with a decent reputation. Blake wasn't so lucky. His prison had a violent history and a reputation for riots. With the trial over, the media slowly moved on. Rachel Turner and Sean Miller faded from the spotlight. A few months passed. Then one evening, Calvin Brooks and DA Leo Spencer happened to grab drinks at a quiet bar. They reflected on the case. "You know," Smith said, swirling his glass, "I'm still a little surprised the jury convicted them. Their stories were consistent. No slip-ups." Bogdan didn't flinch. "The jury didn't buy it. I try not to get emotional unless it's a case involving kids or something truly horrifying. This one wasn't the worst. But let's be honest, they didn't exactly make it hard to doubt them." About a year later, a brief news report made local headlines. There'd been a prison riot where Blake was housed. He'd been stabbed. The blade punctured a lung. He was taken to the hospital in serious condition, but was expected to survive. 18 months had passed since the trial. Calvin Brooks rarely thought about the case anymore. He'd spent the first year reviewing records and testimony, but couldn't find anything to support an appeal. Legally, there was nothing left to work with. Then one quiet Wednesday morning, over in New York, at the offices of the Innocence Project, a FedEx package showed up. The receptionist opened it, curious. Inside was a DVD, a sealed biohazard bag, and a long letter. She called in Jason Cortez, a young lawyer who'd been working at the organization for about a year. He specialized in research and believed deeply in second chances. Tony took the package to his office, sat down, and opened the letter first. It began, "Regarding the convictions of Rachel Turner and Sean Miller, I don't know where to start, so I'll just start from the beginning. My name doesn't matter. What matters is the information I'm about to share. It could change the lives of the 2 people you think are guilty, and 5 others, including me." The letter went on to explain that about 15 months ago, the writer had hired a man he referred to only as Jack. Jack had answered an ad seeking someone with tech experience, and from the moment they met, it was clear he was gifted. Jack knew everything there was to know about business networks and systems. Within 2 months, the business had grown by 50%, thanks to his skills and long hours. At the time, the writer's business was still small, and Jack hadn't found a place to live yet. So the writer rented out the basement to him for extra income. He had a young son and needed to invest back into the company. It was a risk, but something about Jack felt safe. He wasn't flashy. He was polite, focused. They settled into a routine. Jack worked late. He never watched TV. He didn't care for small talk. Over time, the relationship grew, first to friendship, then into something more. The writer admitted, "My son now calls him Dad." Still, something always seemed off. Jack carried a heaviness with him, something deep and unresolved. Finally, one quiet afternoon, the writer confronted him. They locked the office door and sat down. Jack opened up. He told the writer he'd come from a broken marriage. His wife had cheated on him with a close friend. He was emotionally shattered and at a breaking point. That conversation changed everything. Eventually, they began dating. Carefully at first, weekends only, nothing official. Then Jack moved from the basement to the bedroom. They became a real family. Still, the writer felt like Jack was hiding something. That shadow never quite left him. 4 days ago, Jack collapsed at work. It turned out to be a heart condition. He needed surgery. Once stable, he was moved into a private hospital room. That's where he told the whole story, afraid it would die with him if he didn't make it through the operation. He told the writer everything over the course of a day. The truth, the setup, the disappearance. And once the writer agreed to tell someone, Jack looked at peace for the first time. As he slept, the writer typed the letter, while their son slept nearby, and vowed to send it off by noon the next day. The letter closed with the beginning of Jack's story. 2 years earlier, he was still happily married to Lisa. They'd been married for almost 6 years. Then, one night, he noticed a bruise on her right breast. Small, discreet. Not the kind of thing you get from bumping into a cabinet. It looked like a love bite. He didn't say anything that night, but his mind spiraled with possibilities. By morning, he told himself he was being paranoid, that it meant nothing. Later that day, someone from his office dropped off a GPS tracking device they wanted him to test out for delivery logistics. That's when the idea hit him. He knew exactly how he'd find out the truth. 3 days after Jack installed the GPS tracker in Lisa's car, he checked the monitor from work. She told him she was going shopping, but the tracker said otherwise. It showed her parked at Sean Miller's house. An hour passed. Her car didn't move. Suspicious, Jack called her. She doubled down, claiming she was still out shopping. That night, she came home and lied again, going on about sales and crowds, while he sat across from her, listening in silence, stomach twisting. He didn't confront her. Not yet. The next week, while on a work trip, he kept tracking her. He watched her drive through 3 states just to meet Blake again. She was at Blake's place from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. Lisa told him she'd been home all night. That was the moment it all broke. Jack felt crushed, angry, hollow. He never thought Blake, the guy he called his best friend, would be the one. And Lisa? The woman he loved for 6 years? That night, Jack walked over to the house next door. The elderly widow who lived there had lost her husband years ago. Jack offered a smile and asked if he could borrow a wrench. While she shuffled off to get one, Jack quietly slipped into her garage and took an old revolver from her late husband's toolbox. The plan was dark. Simple. He wanted to confront them both and end everything. But something held him back. He didn't want to act in a rage. He returned the company tracker, then ordered his own device, something more discreet. Over the next few days, Lisa and Blake didn't meet. And in that time, Jack's anger shifted into something colder, more methodical. He came up with a different plan. A better one. He would make it look like they killed him. He spent the next week preparing, researching, gathering supplies. He told Lisa he had a weekend business trip coming up, knowing full well she'd use the time to sneak off with Blake. When the day came, and she left for Blake's, Jack got to work. He sent emails to his lawyer that suggested a divorce was coming. He nearly forgot the most important one, an email that would implicate both Lisa and Blake. Before leaving the house, he took the revolver and went to the garage. Using a blanket to muffle the sound, he fired one shot into the passenger seat of his car and another into a block of wood. That moment, he said later, was when the weight began to lift. Revenge was in motion. You can probably still find old newspaper articles about it. He followed the trial, every day, through court reporters. Jack then drove his car to a park near Blake's house, found a quiet area, and pulled into a clearing. He took a large gym bag from the trunk. Inside was everything he'd need. He laid a blanket over a picnic table and spread out the supplies: firewood, plastic sheeting, a spare tire. He dragged the tire along the ground to create a trail, then returned it to the trunk and scattered the firewood. Under the dim light of a flashlight, he made it look like something violent had happened. Next, he used a needle to draw substance from his hand, almost 2 pints. He diluted it with water and sprayed it around to mimic arterial spray. He smeared more on the car seat, the ground, even into the bullet holes. He made it look messy, real. When it was done, he cleaned up and stashed the gear back in his bag. Exhausted and lightheaded, he walked to a second car, one he'd bought under a fake name for this exact purpose. He rested in the back seat until sunrise. Just before 6 a.m., he drove to Blake's house. Lisa's car was there, unlocked. He slipped in and dabbed a few drops of substance on the gas pedal. He did the same to Blake's car, but a light flicked on in Blake's bedroom, and Jack panicked. He ran. Fast. He made a call from a payphone using a voice changer, pretending to be a scared woman. He reported the abandoned car in the park. Then he dumped the shovels and the revolver into the river. Completely drained, he booked a motel room for 2 days. He stayed there alone, surviving on energy bars and vitamins. When he felt better, he called the police again, this time using the voice of an old man. That tip led investigators straight to the gun. When he told this story, he said it was the only way he could let go of the past. Jack Turner was dead, he claimed. He had a new name now, a new life, a new family. Only his partner and her son knew who he really was. She, his partner, was the one writing the letter. She explained everything, asking for help. Help to undo the damage. The plan was simple. She'd go out, buy a New York Times and an inkwell. Jack would press his substancy fingerprints onto a section of the front page. That sample, combined with the DNA, would prove he was alive. It would be enough to free Lisa and Blake. At the bottom of the letter was a handwritten note. Jack made it through surgery. He's recovering well. I'm flying to Seattle tomorrow to send this package. I don't want to leave him, but this has to be done. We're expecting twins in 3 months. Jason Cortez flipped to the last page. No signature. Just a blank space. He leaned back in his chair, heart racing, and examined the rest of the package. The DVD was labeled, Photos, George Washington Park. The black envelope read, Fingerprints and DNA. He checked everything again for clues, then called a senior attorney. This wasn't something he could handle on his own. It didn't take long to confirm what they suspected. The fingerprints matched Jack Turner. The DNA was his. The substance from the park scene came from him. The man was alive, which meant 2 people, Rachel Turner and Sean Miller, had been convicted of an incident that never happened. The state attorney general and governor got involved immediately. Within days, the courts moved to reverse the convictions and arrange their release. A week later, Lisa and Blake walked back into the same courthouse, this time with Calvin Brooks at their side. Lisa's parents were there. Even DA Leo Spencer showed up, along with several state officials. The attorney general stepped forward and formally apologized. The justice system was misled by one man, he said. Jack Turner. He staged a crime that cost this state time, money, and 2 innocent people their freedom. We intend to find him. When asked where the manhunt would begin, he shook his head. We have no idea where he is. Blake looked like a changed man, quieter, more humble. He turned to Lisa and apologized. I'm sorry, he said. For everything. For how it started. Lisa didn't say much. She didn't seem angry. Just done. She left with her parents without looking back. Both the DA and Calvin Brooks admitted they'd been fooled. They promised to be more cautious in the future. The state refused to accept fault, but did award each of them $50,000 in compensation. Blake, whose business had collapsed and home was sold to cover legal fees, left town shortly after. Jack cost me everything, he told Lisa. 50 grand doesn't even scratch the surface. Lisa looked tired. We still deserved it, she said quietly, then walked away. 2 weeks later, a thick envelope arrived at Calvin Brooks's office. Inside, a note for the attorney and a sealed letter addressed to Lisa. Smith delivered it to her in person. She opened it after he left. It was from Jack. Lisa. I'm sorry for the time you spent in prison. Your betrayal broke me. Blake's too. I was lost. But I found a new life, a better one. Letting you both go was part of healing. I know they'll come looking for me, but I'm not afraid. I have a new name, a new family, and a new beginning. I hope you find yours too. Goodbye, Jack. The letter slipped from Lisa's fingers. Whatever hope she still had left crumbled with it.